Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. We are recapping this week's nerdy news from King's Landing to Exegol and everywhere in between. My name is Mike Gibson. With me, as always, is Steve Haller. What's up, Steve?
Oh, just checking the levels and making sure everybody's live. It seems we are, so I'm here to talk nerd stuff with you.
All right, good. Yeah, me too. We got a lot to talk about this week. We got a lot of comic book stuff. New York City Comic Con just wrapped up mere hours ago. It was this weekend. A lot of cool stuff coming out of New York Comic Con, as always. We got some trailers to talk about. We got some Marvel stuff, some books to talk about. Got some personal stuff for me to talk about, which we'll get to in a second, which you're going to be hearing a lot about over the next month or so, I should say. So buckle up for that, or unsubscribe if you're already sick of it. If you follow me on social, you might already be sick of it.
don't go and do that, because you're going to enjoy what he's got coming.
All right. Thanks, Steve. But we're starting things off with a teaser trailer that dropped this week in the world of Westeros. That's right. We got a teaser trailer for just HBO's new series, House of the Dragon, prequel to Game of Thrones. It takes place 200 years prior to the events of Game of Thrones. Focuses largely on the Targaryen family. And we got a quick minute and 15-second-ish trailer for it this week. Steve, we both like the show Game of Thrones. I believe you read the books. Is that correct?
Yeah, a couple times at this point.
A couple times. So you're definitely a bigger fan of it than I am, I guess, because I just watched the show. You seem to be more entrenched in it. What did you think of this trailer?
I'm not gonna lie. I think we've talked about it a couple times before. I was pretty over Game of Thrones just because of the way they torpedoed the show, and then Martin hasn't done anything with the books at all. Like we're still hanging out in the Dance with Dragons and have seen no Dream of Spring or Winds of Winter. So it really had fallen off my radar. And I'm not gonna lie, I saw this trailer and I was like, maybe I do need to see some more of this.
Good.
It was like, it didn't rekindle the feeling of the first time, like, seeing the Game of Thrones trailer, having read the books and, like, seeing that come to life. Yeah. But it was like, it seemed to, for one, the fact that they're not going, there's no script that they can find a way to fall off of, like Benioff and Weiss did, and the fact that they're kind of playing in their own new sandbox with Martin at the helm, as an actual executive producer instead of just consulting like he was on the other. Gives me hope. I mean, that said, I don't know. We didn't see a whole hell of a lot in the trailer. We saw a giant ass closer to book accurate Iron Throne, and we saw a lot of the various other houses of Westeros, or at the time, the Valerians, and it's the fact that it's set in a whole era gets me more excited about it. Also, Matt Smith as Aegon Targaryen, that'll be something.
Yeah, so, I think that might have been his voice narrating as well. Like at the very end,
like it.
When he said the thing about dragons at the end, I was like, that kind of sounds like Doctor Who. I know that's Matt Smith. I believe he's the only cast member that I'm familiar with as an actor. And Steve, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I think we've talked about this, but for me, I feel right now I don't ever need another Game of Thrones anything. As someone who just watched the show, someone who does not read the books,
right?
Who doesn't know as much about the history, because I know they get more into like the history of Westeros and the families in the books than they did in the show.
Absolutely.
So like even seeing this trailer, I was like, looks good, but okay, right. I'll wait and see. Like I know there's at least one person that I know who's super pumped about this series because of his fandom for Game of Thrones, but I just feel like I don't see the amount of hype for it that I do for other series, Marvel, DC stuff, Star Wars stuff. Like, I mean, Game of Thrones was right up there as a fandom for years while that show was on, from people that read the books and people that just watched the show and people who liked both. But I just feel like the hype isn't there, and I feel like the excitement isn't quite there, and a lot of it I have to attribute for me, and from what you just said and from other people I've talked to, I think a lot of it is because Game of Thrones itself, the show, didn't stick the landing.
Yeah.
By most accounts, people were let down by that final season almost in its entirety, if not at least the last couple episodes. And I think if that show had stuck the landing, you would see more hype for this. That being said, this trailer looked really great. It seems like they're spending the same amount of money on it as they did at Game of Thrones. It looks gorgeous. There's some really cool looking stuff. It looks beautiful. Obviously, like set decor and costuming and everything is like right on point. Like they're sparing no expense, because HBO and Warner Brothers obviously want this to be Game of Thrones level television. But for me personally, and I think a lot of other people, it depends on how good it is. It's like a wait and see.
Oh yeah,
kind of thing.
Even for me, it's going to be I'm definitely tuning in for week 1.
Sure.
But how far beyond that, I don't know. It's all going to be like we've seen that it can be totally. It's not like a Star Wars or Marvel or DC show where I know I'm going to want to keep coming back for more no matter what.
Right.
We've seen that they can find a way to, not, like you said, not stick the landing. I think very badly at that.
Yeah, and the pressure is off. Like you said, they have more freedom, which I think is good. So it's just basically like any other show that isn't based on something. And you just hope that it's good, and you hope that it lives up to characterizations that people who read the books know about. Clearly, they're going to draw on some things that are referenced in here and there, but they definitely have more freedom with character. And speaking of character, I mean, that's really why I started getting into Game of Thrones. I didn't start watching Game of Thrones from season 1. I think it was probably in season 3 by the time I started watching it.
Oh yeah.
And it was because I just kept hearing how great it was, because I'm not a big swords and sandals guy in general of that genre. It's, I call it swords and sandals. Like,
absolutely.
And so it's for me to get into something like that, it's got to be character driven. It can't just be spectacle. I have to care about the people, or it has to be done in an interesting way. And Game of Thrones was that for me, pretty right off the bat when I started watching it. I was like, this is something different. This is very hooky and makes me care about these people a lot. And I honestly, I don't know if I'm going to be there week 1 for this. I might wait for your review of it or someone else's review of it. I might wait a couple of weeks to be like, okay, I'll binge 3 of these and see, how I feel about it.
Yeah. No, and it makes sense.
If it pulls me back in, great, then I'm on board. But based on how I feel right now, I don't know that it will inherently pull me back into that world.
Right, and I'm kind of curious because, like, we've talked about how Star Wars took a break and it kind of helped, how Marvel with the pandemic took a break unintentionally or intentionally, whatever worked out, and it helped. With Game of Thrones, it's almost like they left such a bad taste in our mouth that they took a break, but it didn't help. Like, it's almost as if they'd have greenlit this sooner and just gone right into it, I think people would have been more on it.
Honestly, I don't know, because I know we've talked about these prequels before on the show. I may have made this same point before, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating something I've said before, but I'm shocked that they didn't greenlight prequels during season 4 of Game of Thrones. There should have been 2 spin-offs in development already. Yeah. And I don't know why they waited to the last season to do this. Like, you got to strike while the iron is hot, man. Like, you got one of the most popular shows on television in, like, history of television. You should spin this off right now before you have a chance to completely railroad the ending of it. And I don't know why they waited so long, and it seems like a mistake. But
and they were doing,
we'll see.
Because it was stuff surrounding the Night King, and there were a couple others that were tossed up as options. And like, I get if you wanted to wait on the Night King stuff, like, there was plenty of story to come on that. But like this one, you literally could have started this show in season 6. Like there's no overlap, there's no nothing. It's just like
right.
There's no ties to whatever. Like start rolling this in season 6 or 7 and like run it concurrently, or like as soon as it ends, like, hey, the next week we're starting season 1 of the spinoff.
Exactly. Yeah,
Better
it's
call
200 years prior.
Saul. Yeah, better call Saul.
Exactly.
And just go.
Yes. Yeah, you got 200 years to play with. Like, you're not going to step on too many toes of what's going on in the other series. Like, I don't know. I hope this is good. And it comes out. It's just 2022. We don't know exactly when yet. My guess is probably mid to late 2022, based on this minute-and-a-half teaser or minute-ish teaser.
Everything they showed was practical. Yeah, everything they showed was practical effects. There was we didn't see the dragons. We didn't see anything like that. Martin did confirm that we'd see about 17 of the 20 dragons that would have been alive around this time. So that'll be interesting. Couple more than the 3 we've seen. So and judging by that number, they're definitely going to be throwing as much money as they did at the original at this. So
they would need to.
Hopefully that works. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's called House of the Dragon, so you at least want to see a dragon, I would think. And that'd be nice. Good. That would be nice. All right, so moving from Westeros, we're going to talk about comics. We're going to talk about comics early on tonight. We'll save some other stuff for a bit later. We usually do an episode, or maybe every other week, we do a Kickstarter call out on this show. We're going to do a 1.5 of those right now, because the first thing we're going to talk about is something that isn't actually launched yet, but is launching this Friday. And this is for a comic book that I wrote. Hey, everybody. I wrote a comic book. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for the applause. For those of you who don't know, I know a lot of people that listen to the show probably know me personally, but at least a few, I don't know who you are. Tell us who you are. Drop us an email. Tell us, do you know us? Why are you listening to this? Anyway,
multiverseport@gmail.com.
Yeah, exactly. We're out there. Let us know who you are. I am, in addition to being a podcaster, which is more recent, I'm a musician. I'm in several bands in my hometown of Syracuse, New York. My main band is called The Action. I do a lot of solo work as well. I actually have a number of superhero-based albums on Spotify that I'm shocked that I haven't promoted on this.
Yeah, I was going to say those. In hindsight, those are right down the alley.
Yeah. I know. I've got a whole album about the Doom Patrol. I've never mentioned it on this. Like, what's wrong with me? Anyway, check those out. I'm also in a band called The Amazing Shakes, and The Amazing Shakes are a garage punk surf band who wear magical masks that possess us with spirits of rock and roll vigilantism, and we sing songs about vampires and monsters and other things of the sort. A while back, I had the idea to write a comic book based on the adventures of the real-life Amazing Shakes, and now, after many twists and turns and starts and stops, this has come to fruition, and it's launching this Friday, October 15th, on Kickstarter. The Amazing Shakes #1 Vampire Girlfriend is the name of issue 1. Written by me with art by an incredible artist named Riley McFarlane. We're hoping to have her on the show possibly next week or within the next couple weeks as a guest, so Steve can interview us in-depthly about our process here. She's done some incredible work. You could follow her on Twitter at Angerspace. You can follow me on Twitter at Carol's Kid. I'm dropping a lot of first looks, teasers. I just posted the first page of the book this evening. You can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on Instagram, all this stuff. I'm promoting it in all those places if you want to see panels and teases. The full campaign launches on Kickstarter this Friday, 10/15. If you just search for The Amazing Shakes on Kickstarter, it will come up, and you can be notified when the campaign launches. We got a lot of cool rewards that we're going to offer, and I want you all to check it out. There's going to be more information made available this Friday, obviously, but check out The Amazing Shakes issue 1 Vampire Girlfriend on Kickstarter, launching this Friday, October 15th. Yeah. So that's a thing that I've been sitting on for a long time. I'm excited to say that.
We've just been waiting for you to be able to drop that nugget. So
yeah,
awesome job. I'm glad this is finally coming to fruition. I'll be pledging day one.
Thanks, buddy.
The other thing we've never mentioned, the intro song That's Mike on guitar.
Yeah,
he wrote
yeah.
that song.
Yeah, the intro song for this podcast is a song called Short for a Stormtrooper. That is my wife, Rachel Gibson, saying, "Aren't you a little short for a Stormtrooper?" at the beginning. And it's part of a EP that I put out last year where all the songs are about Star Wars. So you can check that out as well. I got Doom Patrol. I got Star Wars. I got Marvel and DC Heroes. I got a bunch of nerdy stuff.
And now you've got a comic book.
And now I have a comic book, yes. So I guess check out my music. Check out The Amazing Shakes. Check out my solo stuff under Mike Gibson. Check out the action. Check out my comic book on Kickstarter that launches 10/15. The pre-launch page is up now if you want to get a look at kind of the logo for it. Looks pretty great. We can get into the nitty-gritty about it when we do an official Kickstarter call out, probably for myself, probably next week. But our real Kickstarter call out for this week is a book called Scarlet Sova, campaign by a woman named Alicia Weir. Scarlet Sova is about a transgendered protagonist, Ava Alexander, who is struggling to move on with her life after the brutal murder of her boyfriend. One day when she returns home, she finds her home completely ransacked. Her world is shattered and everything becomes too much for Ava, and she ultimately takes her own life. Ava then mysteriously returns from the afterlife in the persona of Scarlet Sova while trying to remember who she was and struggling to rediscover her own humanity. Alicia has written that this is inspired by one of her favorite characters, Todd McFarlane's Spawn. You can definitely see kind of an influence in the character design there, but it looks super cool. Pencils by Nathaniel Fox, colors by Lala Narita. And I don't know, this stood out to me when I was looking at Kickstarter today. The art is kind of like dark and gritty, and I don't know, it just looks super cool. Alicia Weir is a transgendered woman herself and a transgender creator working on a transgender protagonist book. I think it's super interesting. It's something that we need more of in the comic book space. And so we wanted to shout her out. She's got 20 more days to go on this campaign. It's like maybe a little bit less than half, I believe, last time I looked at it. So,
oh no, it's more than half
now,
buddy.
Oh, it's more than half? Oh, good.
Oh,
good.
yeah, we're getting there.
Well, I'm sure that people are just flocking there listening to us live while I'm talking about it. So that's probably why when we started talking about it, I'm sure that it was less than half, and now it's just skyrocketing.
I still had the tab pulled up and hit refresh, and I was like, oh yeah, we're over half.
Yeah. Oh, good. Check out this cool campaign from Alicia Weir, Scarlet Sova. Whoop. Sorry, just knocked into my microphone. Like we said, cool looking comic book. Alicia, good luck with your campaign, and we hope you get your funding.
Absolutely.
That
last panel she dropped is like, I get the Spawn influence 100%.
Yeah, it's just super cool. Dark vigilante, supernatural vigilante kind of style, which there's not a ton of that out there. You'd think there would be more. Like Spawn, not completely corner the market on it, but I guess you could maybe argue Moon Knight is a little supernatural vigilante style. But Moon Knight, I feel like is even not as yeah. I don't think he's even as well known as Spawn, really.
Oh no, I mean,
he's about to be.
Yeah. Once that series drops, he will be. But
yeah,
I think you're right. Spawn is definitely the apex of that genre of vigilante.
Supernatural vigilantism. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you can call it The Amazing Shake supernatural vigilantism, which you probably could, because there's some magic in there. Magical mask-wearing vigilantes that use musical instruments as weapons.
I'm not gonna lie, buddy. I love you, but I think Spawn's got you.
Hey, I'm saying right now, we are gonna outsell Todd McFarlane's Spawn starting next Friday, 10/15, Kickstarter, The Amazing
There
Shake.
we go.
I'm shooting for the stars, man. That's not true at all. But before we get into some New York Comic-Con stuff, we got other new comics that are coming out this week. Amazing Spider-Man 76, continuing the new run. Peter Parker is disabled, out of the picture, hurt, injured. I don't know really what the situation is, but
yeah, I haven't read 75, so I'm not 100% sure at this point.
Being replaced by Ben Reilly. Just 100 different creators working on this book together, trading off. We'll see how it goes. We got Batman 89 #3, Batman the Audio Adventure Special #1. This is a book that is based on the podcast on the HBO Max app, the audio adventure starring Jeffrey Wright as Batman. I thought that was interesting that they're already adapting it into a comic book.
Yeah.
Something called Chamber of Terror #1. I literally don't know what that is at all. I just saw the name and thought it was badass sounding and wanted to put it on the list. Eternals Forever #1, new Marvel book about the Eternals. Seems like a kind of redundant title, but whatever. And Strange Adventures #12, the Tom King, Doc Shaner, and Mitch Gerard's miniseries Strange Adventures wraps up this week. I am dying to read this book. Strange Adventures #11 ended with a cliffhanger. As I said, this book for me has been right up there with the works of Tom King's works on Vision and Mr. Miracle. It's just been such a great ride, and it's hard to even talk about without giving stuff away. So check out Strange Adventures. If you haven't been collecting all the time, definitely pick up the trade when it comes out. I'm sure it'll only be a matter of months before that thing's out. Oh, yeah. Definitely pick that up. Huge, I don't know, just a huge work, and going to be a great read. Speaking of huge works.
Oh, no. Hold on 1 second.
Oh, what do you got? What do you got?
You know what's crazy? We talked about Moon Knight. Take a wild stab. What's coming out this week?
Oh, a new Moon Knight book?
No, the third printing of the #1 of the new Moon Knight book.
Oh,
so apparently people are picking this one up.
People are taking Moon Knight. I feel like there's been a lot of hype around him in the last couple years because people wanted Moon Knight in the MCU, and I feel like I started hearing more about. I mean, I've known who he was for a long time, but I started hearing him more referenced on like YouTube shows and like in nerd punditry and things like that within the last couple years. So there's definitely like a groundswell of fandom out there for this character, and I think that show's gonna drop huge. Obviously, their comics are flying, so
and it's gonna fit well. It's funny because we don't have without having Daredevil in the MCU, it's gonna kind of fill that street level void. So it'll be interesting to see how that all kind of fits out, especially with that She-Hulk and whatever else dropping. Other reprint notes. You know how I know James Tynion's doing good things?
How's that?
Department of Truth 8 through 12 just got their second printing. Like literally all of them dropped this week. They're just like, here, have more books because we can't sell enough of them.
Yeah, that dude knows what he's doing. Clearly,
he's
Clearly.
got things. He's got things going.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, speaking of other books that have things going or haven't had them going for the last
for
3 years
long time
and are about to be going again. This is big news, comics people. We got out of New York City Comic Con, first big story out of New York City Comic Con, the return of Saga. That's right. Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples' masterpiece in the making has been on hiatus for 3 years, and they just announced that it's coming back January 26th, which is way earlier than people expected. I think people had been thinking it was going to be next year, but they were thinking spring, summer. It's coming out in January, people, as mere months away. It's picking up with issue 55, which is going to be a double-length issue. It's going to be 44 pages long and still only going to retail for $2.99. That's pretty awesome. Steve, have you read any of Saga?
No, that's one of those that's on the list of, like, especially after I finished Y, I was like, all right, Brian K. Vaughan does good things.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to pick up the next, iteration that he's going through. And then I never did. So I got to get a trade somewhere. Like, I've had so many people say you need to pick this up, and then just never did. So I may have to borrow a volume or two.
Yeah, sure, man. I have the 3, like the deluxe, the hardcover volumes, 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
I've only finished the first one. I've started the second one, and I need to get back into it. It's crazy that I haven't, because almost every issue ends with a I need to keep reading this book right now kind of situation. And now that I know it's coming back, it makes me want to finish all 3 so I can pick up that issue 55. I don't know what happens at the end of issue 54, but I do know that it's a massive cliffhanger. So I think everyone that is caught up, and then had to wait 3 years. So I know that everyone that has been following, that has read it, is going to jump. Is going to jump on it. I saw some article going around on Twitter. Saga's finally coming back, but is it too late? And I was like, well, from what I've heard everybody talk about the ending, pretty sure it's not. I don't think it would ever be too late to figure
Yeah,
out
like,
the end of this cliffhanger. Yeah.
yeah, they're coming back. So
Yeah.
this is the comics equivalent of Martin in Game of Thrones, kind of, where it's just been
Yeah.
like, hey, we got this huge ongoing series. Oh, we're just gonna stop it for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But honestly, I think that was a good move. Like, even not having read the entire series, like, it's sprawling, and part of the reason that it is so engaging,
Mhm.
and I didn't really realize this until I was probably halfway or 3/4 way through the first book, is that it happens pretty much in real time. Like, you are with these characters, you see every part of their journey. There's never like a 3 months later or anything
Right.
like that. There's never a jump in time, or if there is, it then goes back and shows you what happened during that jump of time at some point. So, like, you're just living with these characters the whole time, so you are literally on the adventure with them.
Right.
It really sucks you in to what's going on, and it's just some of the most wild character design and just out there ideas that I've ever seen. People say Watchmen is unadaptable, like truly unadaptable. And there's clearly been at least one attempt to adapt that graphic novel. I think Saga is more unadaptable than Watchmen, unless you wanted to do. It would have to be a series that was guaranteed a certain amount of time. I don't know, because there's just so much going on. And that's what I was going to say. I think it's smart for them to take a planned hiatus, because I've been reading books before that haven't announced a hiatus, and scheduling becomes a problem, and it just drifts apart, and they either never get back to it, or still haven't gotten back to it, or cancel it. So I think for somebody as busy as Brian K. Vaughan and someone as talented as Fiona Staples, like, these are the two people writing and drawing every issue.
Yeah.
And they've done 54 so far, and they've said that they're only halfway through, I think. Like, from what I heard, I think I remember during the hiatus, it was reported people were starting to think, like, oh, they'll probably come back and there'll be like 10 more issues and that'll be it. And they're like, no, we're only halfway done. We have a lot more to go. So when you're doing that much, if you want to stick to your schedule, like, give yourself a break. This is like two people, comic deadlines can be tough. So, give yourself some time. So I'd rather that happen and have a plan and, be able to follow it without interruption. So if that's what this enabled them to do, then good.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's Saga. You should all read it, because it's great. I'm not even through what's out, and it's quite incredible. We also got a cool bit of news from New York City Comic Con. That NASA released a digital graphic novel called First Woman about Callie Rodriguez, the first woman of color to set foot on the moon. It was written by Brad Gann and Steve List, illustrated by Brent Dehano and Caitlin Reed. And they put this up for free. You can find it on their website. I think it's nasa.com/specialty or something, and /Callie First. And this is super cool. It shows this character, Callie Rodriguez, and her journey into becoming an astronaut, why she wanted to be. I guess it shows her on the moon. It cuts back and forth between her adventures on the moon and what made her want to be an astronaut and how she became an astronaut. And it does not skimp around on the difficulty in becoming an astronaut. Like, it doesn't really glamorize it or anything like that. It shows you how hard it is to be an astronaut and the work that goes into it, which I think is cool. It obviously is focused on women in STEM, and I think that's a book that we don't get too often, a realistic take on what it takes to be something as prestigious as an astronaut. And I think this is great. I haven't read it. I haven't really looked at it. The cover was awesome, but I plan to check it out as soon as I can, because it's great. It's so super cool that NASA would release something in graphic novel form. I think that's great.
Yeah, when I saw NASA and New York Comic Con, I was like, all right, where's this intersection? But
yeah, exactly.
As a STEM person myself, it's like,
sure.
It's awesome to see them trying to push this and like push the like actually add to ways to bring women into the STEM sphere. I guess I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like, it's just awesome to see that they're thinking about means like comic books, because hey, why not? They're on the rise, and what the heck, might as well.
Yeah. Only print medium that has continued to do better numbers in the last 4 years, I think, than anything else. So
Even
people
better.
are buying it. Like, we went over that whole publishing record a couple weeks ago, and
Yep.
you know, Penguin, Random House, things like that, they're like outselling Marvel and DC with their graphic novels. So like, it's clearly more than superhero stuff that is attractive to readers. So I hope this gets picked up. I hope it goes, spreads far and wide. We also had out of New York City Comic Con the Harvey Awards, named for Harvey Kurtzman, legendary illustrator and cartoonist, founder of Mad Magazine. The Harvey Awards, similar to the Eisner Awards that are done at San Diego Comic Con every year. This year's awards went to a bunch of books that I have not read and not really heard of, but worth mentioning. Trung Le Nguyen's.
Trung Le Nguyen.
Not sure. What's that?
Trung Le Nguyen.
Trung Le Nguyen. Thank you. His book, The Magic Fish, won for both Book of the Year and Best Children or YA Book. Rachel Smythe's Lore Olympus won for Digital Book of the Year. Tatsuki Fumimoto's Chainsaw Man for Best Manga. And Youngshin Ma's Moms, translated by Janet Hong, won for Best International Book. Steve, did you read any of these? I haven't read any of them.
No, but you had me at Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, title of Chainsaw Man, I'm in. I had heard of The Magic Fish. I think I might have read it in that breakdown of the publishing that we talked about a couple weeks ago, but we were more focused on traditional superhero Marvel DC stuff in that report. Yeah, guys, these books won awards. Go buy them. Go check them out. One thing I can speak to, I guess there's a Harvey Award for Best Adaptation from a comic book or graphic novel, and that won to Marvel and Disney Plus series WandaVision, which, the more I think about that show, the more I want to rewatch it, and the more I think it was incredible. Definitely like kind of top tier MCU for me, I think. It's not often that you get a series like that I don't know. It did a lot that I didn't expect it to do, and in all good ways, I think. I think a lot of people wanted it to be more, comic booky in a sense. I don't know, more superhero-y, more twists, and it's really this person, and it's like, oh no, it's just Wanda.
Right. And I think it's part of a function of the circles we kind of run into on the interwebs, because the way they unintentionally kept dropping the Mephisto hints, I think that threw people a little too far into, I would have loved for it to have been Mephisto, but they spelled it out the whole time that it was Agatha all along, literally. They even wrote a song about it, to be fair.
Sure did.
But like, it did everything right. Like, the first 2 episodes were unique and good and quirky, but also set the stage for something's not, like, in both of them, it was like progressively setting the stage for something's not right. And the standard bellwether we've been using of my wife not caring at all about comics was hooked from the moment, like, Bewitched showed up on the screen. She's like, "Ooh, this is new. What are we doing?"
Yeah, it's new. Yeah, exactly. And there was an article, Evangeline Lilly was talking about the script for Ant-Man 3 Quantumania and how much she liked it and blah blah blah, like she's gonna say it's not good,
right?
But in that interview she mentioned how much she loved WandaVision and how it was a story about a female protagonist that we don't really get, how she's able to be shown as very flawed and struggling, but also the hero at the same time of the story, which is something that we don't get for female characters a lot, women characters. But speaking of WandaVision, speaking of Agatha all along, moving into the world of Marvel and the MCU, there's going to be, it was announced that Disney Plus is developing an Agatha Harkness series based on the villain, the aforementioned villain played by Kathryn Hahn of WandaVision. Kathryn Hahn has signed a deal with Marvel to reprise her role in this Disney Plus series and apparently other TV and films set within the MCU. Obviously, be shocked if they didn't sign her up for a bunch of stuff when she signed for WandaVision.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that we need an Agatha Harkness series. I mean, this is cool. We all loved her in that role. I don't know how I feel about this. Steve, how do you feel about this?
So if I think we talked about like Solo and Falcon and the Winter Soldier were like the shows that we got that I didn't really think we needed, but after I was like, oh yeah, we really needed that, and it was great. Sure. This is like the opposite of that, where it's like the thing that I've already thought in my head, like, I'm glad they just left her as it is, and now we're getting a series on it. Like, what are they possibly going to flesh out? Like, she doesn't have the Darkhold. She's just stuck in the persona that was left.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's how it ended. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, where are they going with it? What are they doing with it? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
If it was Agatha Harkness in a series, sure, it's one thing. But an Agatha Harkness series just seems a little odd to me.
I personally, I don't know that I liked her as a villain. I don't know that I'm interested enough in her to not be a villain, if that makes sense. Kind of like how I feel about Joker. A lot of people love that movie, and for me, it was like I didn't realize this until I saw that movie. But when I saw that movie, I was like, I think I only care about Joker if I know that Batman is going to stop him from being the Joker, and it's not as interesting to me if there's not somebody, if he's not fighting against somebody. That's when I think he comes alive as a character.
Yep.
And I think this might be the same for me. I liked the way she was manipulating Wanda and playing a role in Wanda's own problems that she was having. But I guess obviously Marvel has earned enough of our trust for me to be like, okay, this will probably be good. Right. But I certainly don't think I need this. And I could change my mind after I see episode 1 of this show. But for me, it seems like, I don't know. I'll tell you what it seems like. I pulled up an article that I saw this past week. Steve, I haven't read this to you because I want to see if you agree with me. There was an article this week that outgoing Disney CEO Bob Iger, I guess there was like a Disney board of directors retreat in Hawaii this past week. He is nearing retirement and handing over the reins to Bob Chapek, I think is the new guy at Disney.
Yeah, whatever the other Bob is.
Yeah, and Bob Iger gave a speech that said this, quote, "In a world and business that is awash with data, it is tempting to use data to answer all of our questions, including creative questions. I urge all of you not to do that." And it says he went on to note that if the company had been too reliant on data, it likely never would have made breakthrough movies like the animated Pixar feature Coco, Marvel Studios projects like Black Panther, and Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. Right. So I saw that because somebody retweeted the article saying like noting, okay, he's mentioning Coco, Black Panther, and Shang-Chi, and saying not to go by data. So they're saying that the data is racist, which is very possible depending on what data you're looking at, I guess. But to me, this kind of, not that this has anything to do with racism, but to me, this call to make a series based on a character that everybody loved from a show everybody loved, but not necessarily a show that people are clamoring for, asking for, or saying that they need, seems like looking at the data versus looking at what is best for the MCU and what is best for the story and the characters. You know what I mean? I'm wrong. I'm connecting two dots that are separate. I'm seeing a through line there. And I don't know if I'm on the right track or not, because, Kevin Feige could come out tomorrow and be like, yeah, this was my idea. I had this idea while we were filming WandaVision, and I pushed for it to be a show, and then I'm wrong.
And I guess that's the thing, is if we hear that from Feige, it's a whole different ballgame. Yeah. If this was part of the creative process, if this was something that, organically came up out of, hey, we did this, what if we took her and went somewhere else, or, added to the discussion around WandaVision, or kept things moving, that's one thing. But this, if it is by the numbers, well, people liked WandaVision, so we need to make a spin-off of WandaVision. Like, you don't. People like Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You don't need to make a spin-off of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Even though that was a spin-off of a thing that's
Right.
going to be spun back into Captain 4, but
Yeah.
whatever. You get the point. Like,
yeah, I mean, this is the first spin-off show from the Disney Plus series,
Right.
and I'm sure we'll get more of these. But this seems more of a traditional TV
Hold
move.
on.
Like, there's one.
You know what we need? The spin-off
we
we need is Owen Wilson on a jet ski for 12 episodes.
Yeah, I would take that. I don't know that I would take that, but like, it seems like a standard TV move. Like, oh, there's this breakout character everybody loves. Let's give them their own show.
Yep.
Assuming that it's guaranteed success. It's like, well, maybe people just like that character. How they interact with the other main characters of that show. You don't need to give them a spin-off.
Mm-hmm. Especially when everything's tied up as nicely with a bow as that show was.
Yeah, and it seems like this is standard television thinking versus MCU, Marvel. We're creating content in a way that nobody ever has, and it's all interconnected. And I feel like if they're giving her own show, then this is going to set her up to be like a major player in the MCU moving forward. And not that she can't be, because she certainly can be. She's powerful enough, and she's but she's not even a villain all the time. Like, she's like an anti-hero, so like, are they gonna make her an Avenger? Like, what's going on here? It just seems so unclear and seems so random. This is the first thing that Marvel's done in a long time that seems just so odd to me. And not odd like making Guardians of the Galaxy. Odd like, why is this necessary? I don't know.
Yeah,
I could
absolutely.
be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I want to love the series, and I want to be wrong about it, but it just seems weird. I don't know. I'm getting a vibe about it. That's all. Speaking of things that I usually get vibes about, usually positive. Is it usually positive now? How many movies are there? I guess usually positive. Yeah, if you include all the TV shows and things. Star Wars. I usually get positive vibes from Star Wars. I'm going to read this story real quick, and I'm going to toss it over to Steve, who is the expert in this kind of thing. Because we're not talking about Star Wars movies. We're not talking about Star Wars shows. We're not even talking about Star Wars toys or comic books. We're talking about Star Wars books, novels, ladies and gentlemen, canon novels. Lucasfilm has announced a couple new Star Wars books that are based on some of our favorite characters, and this is something I feel like they haven't really done in a while. I could be wrong about this. I feel like a lot of books lately have been in other timelines. Am I wrong about that?
It's so what they've been doing lately is putting a lot of eggs in this High Republic basket, which has been awesome. But it's set, I think, 400 or 700 years before. No, it's 400 years because Yoda's still doing his thing. 400 years before A New Hope. So it basically similar to what we were talking about with House of the Dragon. We're going back in time, getting a completely new sandbox, and just we're gonna go play with our toys in our sandbox.
Right. But now we're getting 3 brand new Star Wars novels about characters that we all know and love. The first, actually, I don't know if it's the first. I'm not sure when these are they're all being released over the spring and summer of 2022, so not too far away. One's called Star Wars Shadow of the Sith. It's by Adam Christopher, and is about our hero Luke Skywalker being haunted by visions of the dark side and teaming up with Lando Calrissian for a journey to Exegol, which is the planet that we saw in The Rise of Skywalker, where Emperor Palpatine brought himself back to life somehow, unclear. And also that guy Ochi, where they were going after him to find the knife that led them to the Death Star, that led them to the planet. All those MacGuffins.
The MacGuffins had MacGuffins.
Yeah, I guess he's going to be a part of it as well. I'll just read all the other ones and we'll go back through. Star Wars Brotherhood is by Mike Cast. That's not the right name. What is it? It's not Mike Castle. Why did I write down Mike Castle?
No idea.
I don't know. That's definitely not who it is. I'm waiting for the site to load so I can find his real name. Mike Chen. I don't know why I wrote Castle down. I must have been losing my mind. Anyway, by Mike Chen, Star Wars Brotherhood is a Clone Wars story about Obi-Wan and Anakin scoring off against favorite villain from the Clone Wars series, Asajj Ventress. I'm always down for more Ventress. And then there's Star Wars Padawan by Kirsten White, and that's about Obi-Wan training under Qui-Gon Jinn. So we have like, different kind of not totally different eras, because two of them are like prequel-ish eras, but young Obi-Wan versus older Obi-Wan versus older Luke Skywalker and Lando Calrissian. So this Luke Skywalker book, Steve, I don't know if you know any of these creators or have read books by these writers before, but the Luke Skywalker book seems like it's going to be the story that they talk about in The Rise of Skywalker, because Lando mentions that he and Luke went looking for that Ochi guy and his weird Sith knife.
Right.
And that's why Lando ended up on that planet, the planet that they find him on, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to fill in some of those gaps, and I think it's going to do it in a manner that isn't... the nice thing about the novels over the years, the Legend stuff had its problems, had its continuity issues, but it at least allowed a format for a lot of these stories to be fleshed out and not rushed. For all the dumb things that led to that story being mentioned, and and the super knife of whatever, it seems like this is gonna tie together a lot of those open strings, and should be a solid book. Like, if anything that's filling in the gap on what the heck Luke was doing during that time, I'm in.
Yeah, takes away a little bit my hope of a live action Luke Skywalker Disney Plus series. I guess not, because it could happen before this. It could happen after this. Right, unless this also includes the rise of Kylo Ren and the destruction of the Jedi Temple, then there's going to be more Luke after this.
Right.
They could always tell that story, but I don't know. I'm interested in post Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker Disney Plus series using whatever crazy technology that they showed us at the end of Mandalorian.
Yeah, and I still haven't watched. If our friend Matt is watching this, I still haven't watched that special.
The making of.
I've heard from all of you guys that I need to badly, but I still haven't.
Yeah, it's great. Just makes you happy.
Yeah, there's just time things.
It's like 40 minutes of a bunch of people talking about a thing that made them happy that also makes you happy, so you just feel all happy.
Yeah. usually watching those, you get those like that good feel vibes, and you're like, all right, okay.
Like I like watching Mark Hamill talk about loving being Luke Skywalker. So yeah, because I love when he's Luke Skywalker. Right. So let's do this.
And he absolutely does love it. So
yeah. So any thoughts on Brotherhood and or Padawan, some prequel era?
Yeah, Brotherhood's going to be intriguing, because you don't really see a whole ton of Obi-Wan and Anakin stories outside of the Clone Wars. Even back in the day, like Padawan is confusing, because that kind of feels like it is a spiritual successor to Master and Apprentice, which was an old Star Wars Legends book, which focused on Obi-Wan training with Qui-Gon. So
weird. Interesting.
The Brotherhood, actually, if they can channel what Charles Soule did in the Obi-Wan and Anakin comic, which was that was a great read. If they can channel some of that, that'd be awesome. Like, the dynamic that he exposed between the two of them, while still kind of like towards the tail end of that, you're still seeing some of what made Anakin, and send him towards the Vader path, and they can do good things in that era. There's enough gaps to fill in. Yes, we got the Clone Wars, but was this before everything?
I guess we don't know if it's going to be wedged within like the events of the series, because these are said to be canon, so it'll have to either be before the Clone Wars series or kind of like in between.
I guess if Ventress is around, it has to be wedged somewhere in the middle,
because
she didn't really appear until midway through.
Yeah, we see the creation of her, or the fall.
Yeah.
The rise and fall of Asajj Ventress. And then Padawan's got to be set prior to Phantom Menace.
Yep. Yeah, so that'll be interesting. Well, I mean, spoiler alert for Phantom Menace. Qui-Gon doesn't make it out, so it's definitely got to be before that.
Yeah. I'm down for more Qui-Gon Jinn.
Oh yeah,
that'd be great to see.
Yeah, the man who would have changed the entire fate of the Skywalker trilogy.
Yeah, or did.
Yeah, by dying.
But yeah, that's true. Well, also by like taking Anakin in the first place. He was the only one that wanted to do that.
Yeah.
If it was up to Obi-Wan, he would have been like, nah, we're leaving this kid.
Right.
I thought of something to say about Star Wars that would have led us to probably talk for another 40 minutes about Star Wars, so I'm going to save it for another time, or I'll save it for an off-mic conversation. But we are moving into some one-shots as we wrap up our show tonight. I got a good amount of one-shots tonight. These are stories that we wanted to mention, but not necessarily talk about for 15 minutes apiece. Again, very light DC week this week.
They're all leading up for Fandom next week, though, right?
They're saving a lot for Fandom, which is happening this Saturday, October 16th. They did release a whole bunch of... they've released some teasers and some posters of things that I'm sure they're going to talk more in depth about, like some video game stuff, some like release date stuff. And they also released the entire celebrity guest list of people who will be participating in panels. Lots of exciting names, most notably for me, Matt Reeves going to be there talking about the Batman, as well as Robert Pattinson. So cannot wait for Saturday, and I'm sure that our episode next week is going to be 90% DC, 10% me talking about my comic book, The Amazing Shakes. Launching on Kickstarter 10/15. Just that one more time. Anyway, speaking of DC, our first one shot is we got a premiere date for the Peacemaker TV series spun out of the incredible James Gunn's Suicide Squad film. Peacemaker is getting his own show, and it starts January 22nd, which pretty soon. I don't know when I was expecting that to start, but
it wasn't that quick. I know that.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess it should have been, because we heard James Gunn talking about how he was writing it and filming it over the last year during quarantine. Like, he was working on it as soon as he finished Suicide Squad. He was working on the Peacemaker show. So they're working on it for a long time, and it's here before we know it, which makes me excited about the other DC stuff that we've talked about in the past that has been announced. And I keep thinking is probably 3 years from now. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's 22. Maybe we're getting more stuff like this. But anyway, January 22nd. Peacemaker. We also got a poster for it, and I'm sure we'll get a lot more information on it from DC Fandom.
Absolutely. Moving on to Amazon series, they apparently have grabbed, and this has long been in the works, grabbed and produced a animated series based on Critical Role, the hit D&D live play podcast, which just happened to have been so the backstory on it was a D&D game between 8 professional voice actors, and they decided to start recording it, and ended up on like Felicia Day's Geek and Sundry channel. That's where I ended up finding them way back in the day when we had to go to websites instead of YouTube or it's like, oh, it's on Geek and Sundry, I'll listen to that. But the Legend of Vox Machina, the name of the group of mercenaries, the long story, watch it. It looks good. It's like 80s Japanese inspired animation, but with an adult twist. So it's intriguing.
To pick up where you were saying that it was it's a podcast that ended up, they did a Kickstarter campaign, much like the one I'm launching on Friday 10/15, to do an animated short, but the Kickstarter campaign was so successful that they had enough money to do an entire season of a series, and then it was picked up by Amazon. So pretty cool success story there.
Yeah, it comes in handy that they're all professional voice actors too. So
yeah, for sure, they all got jobs out of it.
They were all voice actors before they even started the Critical Role stuff. Yeah,
but they all got additional jobs with their own thing now, voicing their characters.
Now they're getting paid to play D&D. So that's fun.
Exactly. Yeah. Speaking of things that I'm sure we'll hear more about at Fandom, DC Fandom, we got a debut poster for season 4 of Young Justice called Young Justice Phantoms. Features some of the original lineup characters: Nightwing, Superboy, Miss Martian, characters from season 1. The seasons usually kind of focus on a different roster of characters each time, or add new ones anyway, but this seems like they're going back to some OG originals. Young Justice is a really great animated series, one that I did not think I was going to really be into, and then midway through season 1 I was like, this might be one of the best superhero animated things I've ever seen. They just treat it very seriously. It's not for kids necessarily. It's the really long overarching plot lines that pay off in I don't know, they really pay off. I guess is all I could say. They're not afraid to push their characters forward. You start the season with Robin, you end it with Nightwing, or you start season 2 with Nightwing. And there's a new Robin. Like they keep moving stuff forward in a way that most animated series do not do. So excited to see a poster for season 4. Season 3 ended with a little bit of a cliffhanger, so be interested to see what comes out of season 4.
Okay, moving on. Speaking of Amazon, apparently I got all the Amazon clips today. Amazon has released another clip from Wheel of Time and announced some new cast members for season 2. It's official that Kira Coveney has been revealed as Elaine. And they also have cast Natasha O'Keefe and Mira Sial, who I don't know either of them, as quote-unquote 2 of the most important characters. So there's a couple of options there, and I have probably not even worth speculating on any of them because, we'll figure it out soon enough. But
who knows?
The new clip was some stuff from the Wine Spring Inn, which it's solid to whet your appetite if you're interested in the series.
Nice. We got a very short teaser for the new season of Doctor Who, which was announced that it's premiering on October 31st, Halloween. The series is called Flux, and mentions that the Flux is coming along with a couple other known villains and maybe 1 or 2 unknown villains from the Doctor Who universe. One being the Weeping Angels. They're very terrifying villain. I can't say really team, just alien villain that look like statues. They're terrible. If you don't know who the Weeping Angels are, that's a great place to dive into Doctor Who as an episode from a season. I don't know. I gotta remember what season. David Tennant episode called Don't Blink. You could watch that by itself without knowing anything about Doctor Who, and it's great. And it'll make you never look at a statue the same way ever again. So yeah, final season of not final season of Doctor Who. Final season of this incarnation of the Doctor starts October 31st.
Rob Liefeld is still doing Rob Liefeld things because he's Rob Liefeld. Apparently, someone picked up Prophet, which is one of his peak 90s creations, post-Marvel into his Image days. I don't know how to describe Prophet other than just go peak 90s Rob Liefeld. It's like Cable and Shatterstar. It's basically independent Shatterstar.
He's experimented on in World War II, and then it's Cable, Shatterstar, and Captain America, because then he either gets frozen or falls asleep or dies or suspended animation or something, and wakes up decades later and has to deal with the repercussions of him being gone for so long, but also being some kind of super soldier guy with a lot of pouches on his uniform.
Always pouches.
Obviously.
Always
classic
pouches.
90s Liefeld.
So either way, Jake Gyllenhaal is going to be the headliner in it. So more to come.
Yeah, I guess more to come. Last one shot for tonight. As we talked about previously, the very popular website Webtoon recently, in partnership with DC, announced Batman Wayne Family Adventures comic series, which has been incredibly popular for them. They're already announcing a live-action web series based on Batman Wayne Family Adventures on the YouTube channel Ismahawk. Ismahawk is I guess I didn't know that they officially worked with these companies, and anytime I saw one of their videos, I thought, how are they not getting sued? But they do fun live-action things, pretty good quality shorts like Flash versus Quicksilver and things like that, like teaming up or pitting against each other, different characters from maybe different universes, or similar powered characters. Nice. Green Arrow versus Hawkeye, something like that. And they've almost completed production on a live action adaptation of this slice of life, day-to-day family life of Batman and the Bat Family. So looking forward to seeing that, because I think it's a smart move if they're doing that, because if the Webtoon version is so incredibly popular that people want more. People are going to want a live action adaptation of it. Maybe they don't want to railroad whatever their plans are for movies and TV, but you can do a web series fitting for a web series comic book.
Yeah.
Why not a web series adaptation?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So we kind of did a thing without talking about it. We kind of did a thing where we talked about each one shot as we went along.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I have much to add, except I still don't. Can you just real quick? I know we're running out of time. Can you explain Wheel of Time to me one more time? I feel like I just don't know what it's about still.
Swords and Sandals starts relatively Lord of the Ringsy, gets way more unique, and like starts with the stereotypical small town, people are gifted, go do their thing,
Sure.
Go on epic quest, but it doesn't follow the tropes from there. It like made its own tropes.
Good.
And now things are starting to follow Wheel of Time type
Sure.
things. But
Yeah.
it definitely it'll be worth checking out. It's that's like the ultra cliff note of like how to get someone who isn't into Swords and Sandals and immediately will think, hey, it's like all the other ones, because in all honesty most of them are pretty the same.
Yeah.
This one's definitely a unique take on it, similar to how and not how it finished, but how Game of Thrones kind of had a breath of fresh air on that
Sure.
genre.
Bit of a reinvention.
Yep, and this was Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones. So
right.
Robert Jordan started writing these, I think, in 80s maybe, and he actually died before he finished the series.
Oh, geez.
So Brandon Sanderson finished the last couple books for him based on his notes and with consultation with, I think, his son or something.
Wow.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Cool. Good to know. I thought of one other thing we could talk about real quick before we go. Did you finish What If?
No, as dumb as it sounds. I know what happened.
Yeah.
But that is the first Marvel property that actually lost me. And apparently it lost me before it got good.
Yeah.
Or like I never even got to Marvel Zombies.
Oh, wow. So you dropped off a long time ago. Okay.
Yeah. Now,
wow.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I mean, it didn't lose me, but I don't know that I'd watch a second season of it.
Right. Yeah, I guess
because...
I should rephrase that. It's not that I disliked it. It just wasn't. Yeah. It was the same thing that the Bad Batch did for me, where it was like, once I finally got around to watching it, I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. But it wasn't gripping me and engaging me every week.
Yeah. I think I said this either right when it started or before we were talking about it, just like all these Marvel fans and MCU fans have been conditioned to need to see everything because everything is connected. Now you're giving us something that is MCU but is also not connected.
But now might be connected, apparently.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, well, yeah, I know, but I don't know. It's just a strange thing where it's like, yeah, this is fun, but I don't need to see this. And in a world where I'm watching a ton of different shows and movies and trying to keep caught up on everything from comics to podcasts to everything else based, with these fandoms and things that I love, I don't know that What If is going to be a mainstay for me.
No, I always liked the one-shot comics. Like, if I see one or whatever, they were fine.
Yeah.
But doing the whole series and actually having it have through lines, which I like that they kept the through line thing, or started the through line thing. But also, like, it just wasn't, I don't know, just didn't quite.
And also, it was almost like too similar to, like, the MCU for me. It was just like, okay, there's different versions of these characters, but at the end, they all still come together and it ends up being an Infinity Stone storyline. Like, okay, you couldn't have done, you have a multiverse, you could have done anything else and you're still giving me Infinity Stones. I was like, okay,
which
great,
we already know
fine.
are basically paperweights.
Yeah, I know, which I really like that part in Loki. I really liked.
That's it's the Swedish version instead of the Norse version.
Yeah. Sorry. Trying not to go down a whole rabbit hole of other versions of Loki, but there's the potato based one, gnocchi, also. That's like the
bravo, sir.
That's the one that I'm gonna go with.
Yep.
But then, I wish they had spent kind of more time on that in Loki. Like
the forest fighting bear, Smokey.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And how like pivotal that was to his realization of like, oh, there's so much more than these like 6 stones that I think are all powerful that they're in somebody's desk. You know, like they did it real quick and they mentioned it, but it was like that's like a super pivotal thing. And I thought that was saying to the audience, like, stop worrying about these. These are meaningless now.
Yep.
And then like again, you know, what if is like a cartoon, it's a spin-off, it's not necessary. I mean, it is and it isn't canon, it is and it isn't part of the MCU because it's multiverse stuff, but you know, if you're telling me not to care about them and then you make me care about them in something that I'm already viewing as outside of the main continuity, then like I even more don't care about them. So I don't know, that's kind of how I felt about it. Like it was fun but not great. I don't know, for me personally, I'm sure people loved it, but
no, I guess have you caught up on why?
I'm not caught up on why. I've watched maybe the first 5, I think, Why the Last Man. I really think it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. We finally caught up last night so that we could be caught up for Monday. So I'm liking it. My wife's digging it. I think it's definitely they're doing it right, and I do like how they're approaching. You know, we talked about the elephant in the room of how are you going to take 2002 sensibilities and translate them to live action in 2021, and they're the whole Sam arc and everything there is they're working with it, and it's working as well as possible from a hetero cis male standpoint.
Trans people are part of the conversation in that show all the time. Like there's an out trans character, like you just mentioned, named Sam. They reference it all the time. You know, the Diane Lane's character at one point says, there's plenty of men left, just none with the Y chromosome.
Right.
And in the last episode, I think it was episode 5, it came up quite a bit. And I think like that's the answer, because that's kind of what you and I were saying, like, how are they going to do this? I mean, the answer is to make it part of the conversation and make it part of the plot and make it part of the DNA of the
the show. Don't beat around the bush on it.
No pun intended. Like, just be blatant about just be blatant about it, and they are, and they're like weaving it in something. You know, I'm not a trans person. I'm a white cis male, but in a way that for me feels very respectful. I think it's great. Like that's the way to do it, and I love it. Like I think all the characters are. I think there was one when they first met Dr. Man. I thought there was like one scene I was like, ooh, that's a lot of exposition that came out real quick. That seems a little forced because they got to do other stuff. But other than that, I think it's moving at a pace where I want it to move faster because I want it to get the things that I know from the comic. But like it makes perfect sense for the show and what they're doing.
And the man intro. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that like man intro set was like the first point where I was like, I don't know if they're nailed. Okay, they came back to it. We're good. Like there was a moment where I was just like, this is kind of awkward. My wife didn't think twice about it. But
same.
Knowing how it all played out in the book, I'm like, I don't know if they're gonna nail it.
Yeah.
Okay, they're fine.
They just went from finding her to she finds out that York is actual man, or like Y chromosome man, to we're all going to San Francisco together in like 2 minutes. Like it was like
and very
really,
emphatically.
Really quick. No hesitation, no who are you, no why are you looking for me, no why should I trust you, just
no Israelis.
I'm still waiting on that character to show up. There's a few characters that I'm surprised haven't shown up yet, but they're also giving us a lot of characters that don't exist in the book, which and are making them very compelling. So I'm along for the ride, and I know then when they do introduce those characters to us, it'll be like a oh my god kind of moment. Like, here it is, finally, here she is. Anyway, so I'm excited. Yeah, people should be watching Why the Last Man. If you're not watching Why the Last Man, do it. Get in on it.
This was the episode brought to you by Brian K. Vaughan, apparently.
Yeah, clearly. brought to you by Brian K. Vaughan and The Amazing Shakes, launching on Kickstarter 10/15 this Friday, written by me with art by Riley McFarlane. That's all I have to say. That very last thing is the only thing I'll have to say for the next 30 plus days. So get used to it, listeners.
Got about 4 or 5 episodes that's all you're going to hear, and we're not going to complain about it.
Yep, for sure. But other than that, that's all I got, Steve. If you want to do your wrap-up spiel.
Yeah. No, I'd say another successful episode. So if you guys are enjoying this, feel free to follow on Twitch. If you catch this in your podcatcher of choice, feel free to like, subscribe, leave a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. Really helps us in the search results. The email, I think I mentioned earlier, is multiverseport@gmail.com. Catch us on all the social media, at Multiverse RPT on Twitter, the Multiverse Report on Facebook or Instagram. Beyond that, I've been talking for way too long, and it's 11 o'clock, and I'd say that's a wrap.
Time to go. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time around the multiverse.